Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my Luffy series. This is the final part of a 2-part series, so please go back and watch the first part before indulging in this one. I promise it's worth it. We're back! The video is up and done! No more waiting, you can all get your fix. I'm sorry there's no bombastic opening this time, but you don't really want that, do you? You just want me to keep talking about Luffy. But before I begin, I do need to clarify a scene I muddled around in part 1, which I cannot believe I did, and I am kicking myself up the arse for that. The Kaido scene in Wano, where Luffy goes to fight him. I messed up the wording for that for sure, because I did indeed mean Kaido going all out on the land of Wano and not Okobore town specifically. Luffy was mainly upset at Otama's situation, but he was also disgusted at what Kaido had turned the land into. Wano's food and water had been poisoned to the point it was totally inedible to the common person. And Kaido's factories were the main thing responsible for that. Yes, Luffy was frustrated at Kaido blasting his crew, but he was originally already off to fight Kaido before that ever happened. Hence Law yelling at Luffy, begging him to calm down before the Great Dragon Blast, as you would an angry little dog who was about to bite someone. So, as I stated in part 1, Luffy was indeed watching hundreds of people suffer and die due to Kaido's Iron Fist, and he was beyond enraged at the cruelty Kaido had inflicted upon the land, especially since that was a cruelty Luffy was seeing with his own 2 eyes. Sorry for that mix-up there, I definitely should have explained it better beforehand, but we all make mistakes. Either way, it still serves as a beautiful mirror to the Sabaody scene where Hachi got shot and Kami was being bought out. So we all have that in our heads? The picture has now been painted clearer? Good. I'm glad we can talk about these things. Thank you so much for your patience, even if it meant tearing your hair out and crying and screaming. So I say we just get straight into it. No fun here, only Luffy. I'm just kidding. There will be fun, but not now, because the topic we're opening up with, well, it's a heavy one. So without further ado, here's part 2 of Luffy and Liberty, starting with the breaking and building of an emperor. But before I do that, I gotta hit you with a sponsor. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co. A new month means new treats, and May is tastier than ever. If you don't know what this is, Tokyo Treats is a monthly pop Japanese snack box where you will get up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive, limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks. This time I have the May box. These boxes are pretty big and very generous with their packing. This time we have a katana candy sword, which I had a lot of fun waving around, and other delicious snacks such as grape gummies and spicy ramen. My favorite was definitely the ramen because I love a lot of spice, but everything was delicious. And next we have Sakura Co, who are a monthly authentic Japanese snack subscription box. Sakura Co supports local Japanese snack makers with each box they send out, and they all come with 20 traditional, authentic and artesian Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware. The tableware for this one is a beautiful marquetry plate with a woodwork pattern, and it's really stunning to the eye. My favorite snacks from this box were the Yokohama milk cookies and the peanuts macarons. I have a sweet tooth for biscuits, and Japan sure knows how to make them. You can learn more about the snacks as well as allergen information from the booklets you receive, so it's tasty and safe for everyone. These boxes are well packaged and are packed with a lot of love, and I'm enjoying every single one I get. If you're a snack lover yourself, I highly encourage you to try these monthly snack boxes out and get your own little slice of the sweet side of Japan, all from the comfort of your own home. If you want to give it a try, don't forget to use my code to get $5 off your first box. Be sure to check the links below. And thank you so much Tokyo Treats and Sakura Co for sponsoring this video. Alright, for real this time. I'll stop busting your balls. Let's get into Luffy's past and the shattering to reforging of Luffy's person. I don't know if you know this, but Luffy has fears. Prominent ones. In fact, one of his main fears is why he holds the resolve he does. And truly nothing can motivate you like fear. Because Luffy is all smiles, and because he's so carefree, there is a wonder for how this guy can be scared of anything. But as always, Oda is very good at writing people, specifically the depths of their soul and how they tick, with Luffy being no exception. I explained previously that Luffy's perception of person is just a natural talent he has. And I don't mean to yank the rug from under you, but that's partially a lie. Part of Luffy's ability to read people, from what I've interpreted, comes from the fact Luffy's biggest fear is being alone. It also seems to be the reason for why he's all smiles and why he laughs as much as he does. Yes, he's a naturally fun guy, but he's been able to push negative thoughts or ideas to the back of his mind with the ability to laugh. It's similar to how Saul told Robin to laugh through tough situations. Luffy does the same thing. And before you say I'm looking too far into it or I'm making Luffy deeper than he is, this has pretty much been confirmed during Amazon Lily. When Luffy's left alone in the jungle due to Kuma's power, he reminisces to himself about his childhood. Luffy says, "This is like the time Grandpa left me in the jungle when I was a little kid. I don't want to remember that." He continues on after finding laughing mushrooms, explaining, "These things are great for times like this. Now everything seems funny, even though I'm all alone." For something that can be a gag, this tells us a shocking amount about Luffy. At the time of this chapter's release, it was the first real look we got into a solid understanding of Luffy's fears. Because up to this point, save for the second chapter, we have never seen Luffy alone. A simple mushroom scene has firmly established Luffy has fears. He has bad memories. He's clearly traumatized from what Garp has done to him, but he deals with it by laughing it off. Is it the healthiest way to cope? Maybe not, but it's why Luffy's smile is so iconic of his character and person, because this smile lets us know Luffy will be okay. Now, pause for a second, because there is obviously a scene I skipped over, and that's the Kuma scene. I will never forget this scene due to just how distressing it was for everyone involved. Luffy loses everyone, one by one, doing all he can to try and save them, but to no avail. This is probably one of Luffy's biggest fears unraveling in front of him. By the end of it, as he fails to grab Robin, Luffy has a full-blown breakdown. As much as this scene hurts me, I also love it because it shows Luffy is breakable. And for a protagonist who we must watch grow, there needs to be an understanding that Luffy can shatter. It also shows us an interesting aspect of Luffy, this aspect being that he's self-destructive. I think it's insanely disturbing to watch him slam his head against the ground, injuring himself because he, in his own words, wasn't able to do anything. And this isn't actually the first time we witnessed this behavior. He did the same thing during Little Garden, Luffy's frustration reaching its peak upon watching the giants fight an unfair fight. In the same manner as Sabaody, he slams his head into the ground, inflicting self-harm because there's nothing else he can do. His self-destruction comes out full throttle directly after Ace's death, becoming a danger to not just himself, but others around him. Luffy's reaction to Ace's death was especially upsetting to watch, mainly due to the fact Luffy is punishing himself for not being good enough. The loss of people, the loss of his crew, and the loss of his brother. It makes Luffy panic. It makes him spiral into violent behaviors. And that's due to, at this point, Luffy's idealistic views and his loose grip on reality. What do I mean by that? To understand why Luffy breaks, we need to get into Ace, Sabo, and Luffy's mentality. Ever since he was a kid, Luffy's had this idea that things will just work out. That so long as he keeps a smile, so long as he believes he can do it, he can do it. Everyone will be safe, and there's nothing to worry about. Luffy doesn't like to think, and I'm not calling him stupid in that regard. It's just thoughts of victory also includes thoughts of loss. There is no such thing as only good thoughts. So Luffy just doesn't think about it. But therein lies the issue. What if Luffy can't do it? What if he can't do it 2 times over? From Sabaody to Marineford. And yes, I know Luffy technically did save Ace. He unlocked those cuffs, but Ace is still dead. Somehow, I don't think Luffy thinks about the technicality of if he really saved Ace or not. At least, not at this moment. All he knows is Ace is dead. And he was there to witness it. Now, through their childhood and through these flashbacks, we discover a lot more about Luffy's character. We see just how much Shanks impacted Luffy, and how small things shouldn't matter for tomorrow's friends, and how Luffy's only wish is to have friends. Ace acted horribly to Luffy, but Luffy didn't care, because he saw companionship in Ace. Luffy even reveals he has no one else, and goes through a painful beating as a child just because he wants Ace to like him. Again, I'm not trying to make Luffy deeper than he is. He's just obviously so terrified of being alone, to the point he'll take numerous spiked punches for even a possibility of friendship. Luffy earns Ace's affection through these actions, but he also earns Ace's protection. The protection of a big brother is something I can certainly relate to with Luffy, having a big brother myself, and it's certainly a lifeline a younger sibling can hold on to. But Ace's protection, although well-meaning, is one of the things that led Luffy down a semi-fantastical path, because Luffy's relationship with loss, especially with death, was molded around Sabo. Luffy's in clear distress from the announcement of Sabo's death, very possibly on the brink of a breakdown, so he essentially makes Ace promise him something. On the surface, it's a sweet promise, but it's an impossible one. The promise was for Ace to not die. In the same breath, Luffy also says he'll get stronger so he can protect anybody, and I'm sure we can all see why these two things, hand in hand, made Luffy eventually break down in the future. Luffy equated Ace's death with his own weakness, but we all know full well this was not Luffy's fault. Luffy's relationship with death was so unhealthy and so sheltered that, just like everything else, he wouldn't think about it. When Sabo died, he didn't want to believe it, so Ace withheld his own sorrow in front of Luffy and promised the impossible. Once Ace died, in a similar sense to Sabo, Luffy didn't want to believe it, so he demands Ace come back. He demands to see Ace, and he's stuck in this delusional grieving stage of immense denial. When Jinbe tells Luffy the cold hard truth, refusing to shelter him the way Ace did, we literally watch the anxieties. The dark thoughts and fears overtake Luffy. Luffy can see nothing else. His world is closing in on him, and once again, we are seeing just how fragile Luffy can be. Because while growing up doesn't mean losing your smile, it does mean accepting harsh realities. Shanks even confirms this, feeling Luffy's grief as he says, "You become a man by knowing both victory and defeat, by running and crying. It's okay to cry. You can overcome." I really love this quote because I'm so happy a powerful figure like Shanks is saying it's okay to cry. Luffy's breakdown here is not a weakness. It's not something pitiful. This is Luffy growing. Jinbe helps him through it by reminding Luffy of what he still has. And so long as he still smiles afterwards, Luffy is allowed to sob to his heart's content. To become stronger, there must be a breaking point, and how you deal with that breaking point will determine your future. Real quick, I know it seems like Luffy's delusions may have been confirmed correct with Sabo actually being alive, but the fact of the matter is, Ace is still dead. We know Ace isn't coming back. He's dead in the ground. And Ace was the brother he made that don't die promise with. My opinion of Sabo? Let Luffy have just this one thing, god damn it. God knows he needs it. Luffy's relationship with death now is certainly healthier. During Wano, Otama mentions Ace, and Luffy says straight up that Ace is dead. There's no hope that he's alive, that the impossible promise is still lingering. It's factual and simple. After all, acceptance is the final stage of grief, and Luffy has managed to reach it after a lot of pain. It's terrifying to no longer have his big brother's protection, but he no longer needs it, and that's certainly a part of growing up. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I truly don't know why people think Luffy hasn't changed, because Wano Luffy is nothing like Marineford Luffy. To continue on the topic of death, and something to definitely mention is Luffy's reaction to Robin during Eni's lobby. Once Robin says she wants to die, Luffy seems to make a face of possible distress? Confusion? It's hard to pick it, but this is not the first person Luffy's come across who can't find worth in their life, because Ace was exactly the same. Luffy doesn't quite understand wanting to die, not with Ace and not with Robin, so he responds to Robin in the most Luffy way possible.
頼むからよ、ロビン。死ぬとかなんとか何言っても構わねえからよ。そういうことはお前。
I don't care what you want, whether you choose to live or die, but say it while you're with us. I'm of the opinion Luffy accidentally stumbled on the right answer here, because Luffy's determination to have Robin on his crew is exactly what Robin needed. But it's still an oddly sweet thing to say. You can die if you really want to die, but just make sure it's with me. Again, if we compare this to Whole Cake Island, we can see Luffy's a lot more thoughtful and understanding on how he deals with Sanji. Yelling at Robin to say she wants to live is in a similar vein of yelling at Sanji to tell him how he really feels. Either way, Luffy, like any of the Straw Hats, has gone through an unimaginable trauma. The burning of the Grey Terminal was a part of that, but his own traumas definitely revolved a lot more around Garp, Ace, and Sabo. Luffy is living a life where he is facing his fears every day, where there's high risks and high rewards, so his determination will shine so long as he never falters. Rayleigh very much taught Luffy if he wanted to save his crew, he needed to not only become stronger himself, but strengthen his belief for his crew as well. As a captain, Luffy is allowed to worry about his crew, but he can't always afford to, or there's a trust that's broken. The splitting of the Straw Hats during Dressrosa was a fantastic idea, because it really displayed how deep Luffy's faith in his crew now is. Luffy can't be everywhere at once, it's simply not possible, and protection of his crew also means confidence in his crew. It's why when Luffy's told of how Zoro was saved by one half of his crew, his smile and pride of the Straw Hats is felt so strongly. Sabaody and Marineford was a terrible tragedy, but it was a lesson Luffy needed to learn. As a boy, he was shattered into a million pieces, and through those trials, he came out looking more like the future Pirate King than ever. And best of all, he got to keep that goofy looking smile.
上がれ心臓の音
I said said near the beginning of this that food was important to Luffy as a character, and I'll explain that now. Fun fact, Oda is a Studio Ghibli fan, and if you haven't noticed, Ghibli films always include food. This is because Miyazaki believes the act of giving food, of eating together, is something intimate, compassionate, and human. It creates the warm glow we all know Ghibli films for. Now, let's look at One Piece. At the end of each arc, after an exhausting fight, what do we always see? A banquet full of food, drinks, and friends. Some of my favorite scenes in this series will forever be the end of arc banquets, because it reminds us of what this series is really about, and what Luffy really does. And a lot of the time, when Luffy saves people, it tends to be because someone has reached out to him with a kindness. This kindness usually being food. The giants traded food with him. Vivi promised Luffy a banquet after Alabaster's safety. Both Cricket and Connis brought Luffy into their homes and fed him. Hancock and the Amazon Lily Girls cooked for him. Shirahoshi shared her own food with him. Rebecca gave him her lunch. Sanji obviously does nothing but cook for him. And Otama gave him rice even though she barely had anything to spare. Luffy is food motivated because the act of giving food, of sharing it, is compassion. And it's something Luffy even views as heroic. He explains to Jinbei that heroes share their food, but pirates don't, so Luffy doesn't want to be a hero. We can very well take this to mean that everyone Luffy's eaten with, everyone who's shared their food with Luffy views them as a hero. It's a small kindness on the surface, but to Luffy, this means the world. It's why he will topple empires and dictatorships just because he's been handed a standard bento box. There's also a point to make that true freedom and happiness can mean a full belly. And when we talk about the toppling of empires, when we talk about the liberation Luffy brings people, it's why his freedom is unlike anyone else's. Because Luffy does not truly believe he is free until everyone is free. There is no freedom in himself if he can see his friends bound by chains. Dressrosa is an amazing arc when watching how Luffy works, because Doflamingo is his opposite in every way. Luffy can indeed hate a person, but I've never seen Luffy hate anyone quite like Doflamingo. A cool detail is Doffy also smiles through everything, but unlike Luffy, it has nothing to do with retaining joy. Doflamingo's smile is something malicious and power-hungry, hence why I love the fact Luffy doesn't smile at all with Doflamingo. Doflamingo pisses Luffy off, and he's making sure Doffy knows that. What really sticks with me is Luffy's reaction to Bellamy, to Law, to Dressrosa as a whole, and his final words to Doffy afterwards. An insane monologue I will never forget to this day.
お前は何でもかんでも手の中に閉じ込めてどいつもこいつも操ろうとするから俺は息が詰まりそうだ
You try to trap everything with your own hands so that you can control everyone. And it's suffocating me. My god, it gives me chills every time. Luffy not only wants Doffy's defeat, he wants his total control gone. Luffy does not see being the Pirate King as control. He does not see power as caging others. He believes the most powerful thing you can give a person, and the most powerful thing you can have, is freedom. And when you take that freedom away, he will keep standing back up until the Iron Fist has been shattered. This doesn't come from any good deed Luffy believes he's doing. Luffy doesn't even believe himself to be a good pirate, because he doesn't believe in good or bad labels. He just sees what he sees and acts accordingly. He wants his friends happy. He wants dreams to come true for all of them, so he stays always standing. And with that mentality, he's become a miracle maker. With Luffy, miracles do not just happen. He makes them happen, which he's shown again and again and again and again and again, until finally, with an explosive boom of grit and will, he's awakened Gear 5, a literal god of freedom and liberation. A natural development somehow none of us saw coming, but makes so much sense for who Luffy is and what he's done. Gear 5 isn't fate, or at least I don't think it is. This is a personification of Luffy's 3 cores, of his love for his family, of his dreams and his freedom. This is a self-made god forged through a beating heart that refuses to stop, those beats turning into the rhythm of a joyous drum. Something that's so beautiful to me because Luffy always found music to be an essential part of his crew, an essential part of his spirit, and it's now an essential part of himself, thanks to Gear 5's melodic drums. As I keep saying, Luffy will always stand back up, and Gear 5 has assured he will continue to do so long as he has a stupid smile on his face. Because this is liberation, not for pity, not for power, but because your want is to see the liberation of others. Luffy may not be personally or culturally connected to these islands. He may not always understand what's going on, but that's why we get the perspective of everyone else. The people of these islands are connected to Luffy, and by default, Luffy is now connected to the island. And as I keep saying, what Luffy does is selfish. He's even admitted his behavior in not wanting to share things like food. So he's not liberating these islands for any heroic reason. He just desires to see his friends happy, for life to thrive, and for everyone to be allowed to eat as much as they want, so he doesn't have to share. A selfless selfishness. And what else could the future Pirate King possibly be? In terms of freedom, of dreams, the Pirate King needs to be the freest person in the world, which is exactly what Luffy is, both in body and mind. And this is the mindset that liberates islands. The mindset that has birthed the physical form of Gear 5. Luffy's journey to this point is just so poetic in nature, and his awakening has now become my favorite Luffy moment ever due to everything it stands for.
Monkey D. Luffy 海賊王になる男だ
When I think about Luffy, and when I think about how he's written, I always think about Oda's quote in terms of creating Gear 5. During an interview with the author of Detective Conan, he said this: "I drew this playing around a lot, thinking that it's okay if people are against it. I just want to be playful with battles. Battle mongers have to keep getting more and more serious in order to meet fans' expectations, and I've always hated that. That's why I definitely don't want to become a serious manga in the end. I just want and decided to be playful, and I'm finally able to do that." Luffy's at this point in time final gear is not just an expression of freedom in the world of One Piece, but an expression of freedom for Oda and the breaking of conventions within shonen as well. Luffy is not only free in his own world, but he's free in ours as well. Luffy refuses to bend to the rules of anything, and that smile he wears is a symbol of pure rebellion to the highest form. And it's also why laughing, smiling, being joyful in general is the main feature not just with Gear 5, but with Luffy as a whole. Oda had to make sure Luffy was the protagonist in a world full of could-be protagonists. And how else to do that than to keep him whimsical in an otherwise terrifying world? And when we talk about Luffy, we tend to talk about what Luffy has done for others. Luffy gives back dreams, he forces miracles, he motivates against those who didn't even realize needed the motivation, and he unites hands unlike anything we've seen before. But what about what others have done for Luffy? Luffy hasn't gotten to where he is on his own. Luffy's faced doubts and hit walls, yet his tendency of giving has led people to give back. Luffy wouldn't have saved all these islands, all these people, had they not pushed him up. There's not only a breaking of chains, but a gathering of hearts, and that's Luffy's biggest strength. Luffy's encouragement, his existence, and his laugh makes everyone want to help him. He's by no means a lone wolf. He's not a do-it-all-myself type of character, and he actively does rely on those around him. The power of joy, trust, and hope in people can also give one the power of unifying the masses, whether purposefully or not, and that's exactly what we expect the future Pirate King to be. In the same way Goldie Roger sent a boom throughout the world with his last words, encouraging freedom and dreams for all, Luffy is doing exactly the same. Except Luffy isn't just encouraging freedom, he is forcing freedom with his own hands, breaking barriers one by one, from the sea to the earth and even to the sky. Monkey D. Luffy is an exceptional character. He's impulsive, he's stupid, he's selfish, and yet he's still endearing through it all. Because we know, no matter what he does, no matter the situation, he will make sure to find a solution. Even if the solution means one big punch, over and over and over again. These punches are not just punches of victory, but a punch of liberation. His goofy grin no doubt burned into the minds of all enemies who've fallen before him. And that's the most exceptional part of all. The ability to face such terrors of the seas and still laugh in the face of them. With the grit of love and the might of hope, with thousands lifting him more than they will ever lower him, this is what makes the future Pirate King. A self-forged god and the freest man in the world. A smile that both terrifies and unifies. King of the Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy. And with that, thanks for watching. Wow, oh my god, that was a big project. I was really debating putting my face at the end here because I have big nerves and big anxieties about being on camera. But since this is a video that is honestly a milestone of a video, I think I should push through this time. I feel I should say the reason this took so long is because Luffy is a big character. Unlike other characters, it is genuinely hard to pick Luffy's most impactful and best moments. Gear 5 is certainly up there for me, but Luffy's best moments change depending on who you ask. So while I didn't want to leave a single corner out for Luffy, I still kind of did. I obviously couldn't go through every single moment he's had that was a big moment, lest this be like 4 hours long, and I've decided there's other videos I can make. But most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you for sticking with me this whole time, because I've finally finished the Straw Hat series. While Doffy's video was my first big video, the Straw Hat character essays are definitely why most of you stayed, and it's been an insane ride. Through that time, YouTube has become my full-time job, if you can believe that, and it's 100% because of everyone's support. Not everyone knows this, but it's just one person running this channel, and that's me. I write everything, I record everything, I do all of my own research, and I edit everything all myself. As you can imagine, it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because talking about One Piece for a job is like a dream come true. I can most honestly say that One Piece has changed my life for the better, and the support this whole fan base has given me is just unimaginable. You guys also give me new ideas, new insights, and new ways to think about One Piece, and I can confirm I do read all the comments. My greatest pride with these videos is I am now seeing a lot more character videos on not just the Straw Hats, but on other One Piece characters overall. While I know I didn't create the concept of character essay videos, I somewhat like to think these videos started the thirst for more of them. Maybe that's egotistical to think, I don't know, but my point is, you guys should make some too. There's so much more to talk about with Luffy, with Zoro, with Nami, Sanji, and Usopp, etc, and I want to watch them. I am just as hungry for character deep dives, so don't let this be the end of them. Anyways, I thought I'd show my thanks, and I really cannot express how much everyone's support has impacted me over this series. Especially to my patrons, the financial support is so very much appreciated, and you're all insanely generous for what you give me. I'd also like to thank Lord Look for making that insane intro for part 1. They really came through with that, and it blew me away too. And I'd like to thank Nikki Vicky as well, also known as my friend Anna, for doing the typography for not just the intro, but the video chapters overall. Please don't worry, I have plenty more One Piece topics stored up, including a new video series I want to make, and I hope you all stick around a lot longer to keep talking about One Piece with me. In saying all that, what do you guys think about Luffy? What are your favorite aspects of him, and do you want to see anything more from him? Could he be better? Could he be worse? Or is he just perfect the way he is? Let me know in the comments. If you want to support me on Patreon or even give me a tip for this video, which I didn't know YouTube did until recently, I'd greatly appreciate it. But I know not everyone can support me in that way, and watching and sharing these videos does so much more than you can imagine for me. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and if there's anything else you'd like to see me cover, One Piece or otherwise, please let me know. And I'll see you in whatever I make next. See ya!